Hello, everybody. So thanks for being here. We're going to talk about the East. By the East, I mean China. So today we're going to talk about the Chinese mobile market. I know a lot of you want to go there, and sometimes it's a bit blurry what's going on and how for developers to bring your game into this market. So it's what we're going to talk about. Very quickly, we're going to not talk about the art direction of the games, the theme of the games. So I'm not an artist myself, and I do believe that video game is an art, and an art can cross all the border. So basically, you don't need to do games with a Chinese theme to enter the Chinese market, and the other way around. You can have a Viking games theme working in China. So I won't touch this. I know a lot of developers are always requesting, should we change the art of a game? Well, I do believe it's better to let Chinese do their way. They're good at that. And when the Chinese market wants Western game, they want Western art. So very quickly, who I am. So I'm living in China since 6 years. I was working first for a studio, Ubisoft Shanghai studio, as a marketing and sales director for almost 3 years. And after I moved 2 years ago at Ubisoft Publishing Game. So Ubisoft Publishing Game, that means two things. The first one is sales and marketing in Greater China. So Greater China means China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, because you will see there's a very difference between China mainland, and Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And by mobile, at Ubisoft, it's all the APP and the APK. So that means mobile game on small screen, but also tablet and Android box. Very quickly, sorry, I have corporate guideline. I need to talk about Ubisoft, who we are. So Ubisoft is a big company created almost 30 years ago in 1986. And we are the third independent publisher worldwide with close to 9,000 people. And this year we just reached 1.5 billion euro turnover, thanks to a very great lineup. And we have more than 15 franchises in our catalog. Some of them are very famous, like Assassin's Creed, Rayman, Might and Magic, Watch Dogs, all these kind of things. So we come from console game, but now we have this year more than around 30% of our revenue coming from digitals, and of course mobile gaming is inside the digital business. So I will just show you a quick video about our lineup, and afterwards we will go to the mobile. Thank you. So the corporate thing is done. We are looking for talents. If you're looking for a new job, you can contact us. So let's talk about where we come from in the mobile market. So as you've seen, we come from a console business which is premium, selling premium content, high-quality games. So that means Ubisoft Mobile today is mainly focused on quality, but quality on the Western way, what quality of premium game means. So very good user rating, editor choice, best game of the years, multiple awarded game like Valiant Heart or Hungry Shark. That does not mean on mobile free-to-play quality and money are the same point, but today it's where we are. So to give you an idea, we published around 20 games, so 10 games per year. And if you look at Ubisoft on the Apple Store today, you have more than 7 editor choices. So I do believe we are few publishers in the world achieving that, but we are not on the top grossing revenue publisher on mobile. So we're going to discuss about that. Ubisoft, very quickly, on mobile industry, we have more than 18 studios working today on games for the mobile divisions. We created 3 years ago. It's around 700 people focused on the mobile at Ubisoft today. What is interesting is we are ramping up every year since 3 years, and this year we're going to release 10 new games on mobile. So the growth, I cannot show the numbers, but these are the real curve. Actually, I don't really go into the growth of Ubisoft Mobile. What is interesting more as a developer is we've been through 3 generations of games. So the first generation of games back in 2012 was more premium game, high quality, and nothing about retention, monetization, etc. The second phase was very better quality mobile games from a publishing point of view. So we have a Trial Frontier, Assassin's Creed Pirate that we released premium and moved to free-to-play, and a CSI as an example. And now we are moving into the generation 3 of our games. So it's very important because when you develop a mobile free-to-play games, it's all about reiteration. So you won't make a hit the first time, and we are arriving at the moment where now normally our game is getting more mature. So that was just about the context. What's going on in China? It's what we are talking about today. So in China, from the beginning, we have created Ubisoft Mobile. We decided to create Ubisoft China, which I'm the head there. And basically, we have Ubisoft headquarters, which have an editorial team, a production team, and a sales and marketing team. And they work with the studio all around the world. So the 18 studios you've seen before. And we just recently acquired a new studio, like Future Game of London or Digital Chocolate. And then we create Ubisoft China at the same time, which is working with HQ on localization team and sales and marketing. So that means we are working directly with the studio from Shanghai to take the source code in Shanghai localization team, localize what we need to localize to enter into the Chinese market. So from the beginning, we decided to do this. It just means for a local developer, if you want to go into China by yourself or with somebody, you will need to put resources on this localization job. And you will see localization does not mean languages, it means a lot of more. So that brings us here, actually. When you think about mobile, you have to think for developers 3 main stores. The first one is Apple Store, which have a reach worldwide, including China. So you have a build, right? You do your build for the Apple Store. The second one, you do your APK for the Play Store, which is worldwide, but China. But you have Hong Kong and Taiwan inside, but you don't have China mainland. And then the last one, which is a but China, it's China Android. So every time you have to develop a game, you have to think 3 main tracks. One's going to be your Google, one's going to be your Apple, and one's going to be your Android China. So let's talk about the easy part, iOS China. Pretty simple. The same build, global build, and you can push it into China. So what we do at Ubisoft with the iOS market, is first all our games are localized into simplified Chinese. So every time we release a game worldwide, the simplified Chinese is inside. It's very, very important. It's important for Apple, and it's important for the Chinese community, the iOS users that really want to have the same content as the rest of the world. So if you want to get featured in China, you have to do this. The second thing is we decided to have one build to cover the world. So some other publishers are doing differently. This is the Ubisoft strategy. I do believe it's working pretty well. You will see after. So basically, it's make all the productions job more simple. The certification is more simple. You have one build which is covering the world. What we do, by the way, it's all the metadata are localized. So the logo, the games, the screenshots, the icon are localized because the App Store gives you this possibility. So you have to use it. What is also interesting is all the social channels are localized to China or removed. Because in China, there's no Facebook, there's no YouTube, there's no Twitter. So if you put a button which is about sharing your Facebook content, well, people will get a error page. So you'd better remove it or put the local channels. So putting the local API is a lot of work, a lot of effort, but it works to do it because if you do it well, Apple will support you and will promote your game there. And then, of course, this is example. So everything is localized from logo. This is Assassin's Creed. This is a special Rayman we did for Chinese New Year. Well, after it's up to you regarding your brand and your IP. But this is not much effort for a developer. And I do believe it's a really, really important thing to do if you want to make some revenue on iOS. So this is an example of the metadata from a games developed in Red Links in Finland. So this is the metadata of Trial Frontier in China. And this is the metadata of Trial Frontier in the world. So the difference is, for the world, you really have to focus on the gameplay. Because the Western user want to see gameplay, want to see how the game looks. The Chinese user don't care. What they want to see, it's more the game system, the ambience, and this kind of thing. So, and this can be done through the store. So you don't have to get a different build, which is interesting. So I'm here to give you real insight. So basically, for us at Ubisoft, we have, I think, 16 or 17 games now on iOS in China. The download, if this bar here, the download bar is from 0 to 100, China is 38% of the download worldwide. So every game we release in the world, close to 40% user are Chinese user, just by doing the localization job properly. So this is a very huge market. Well, here's a trick now, the revenue side. From now, we are just reaching 10%. So the RPU is lower in China, but let's dig into this. This is some of our RPD, so average revenue per download in China, across 6 different games. I cannot give you the game name, but you have game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are all real data. So what is interesting is you can see, regarding the games, the difference between your RPD, China versus worldwide, can be totally different. So, for example, the game 1 is around 12%, which means if your RPD is 1 worldwide, China is going to be 12 cents. The one on the right is 55%. If your RPD is 1, your RPD in China will be 0.55. So this is a very, very good way for you to know from the beginning if your game can feed the Chinese audience without a lot of effort. What is interesting is all the lower ones are gameplay based. All the bigger ones are game system based. So Chinese market is based on game system more than on gameplay. So I do believe game system is very good for free-to-play monetization. Gameplay very good for retention in the West, right? So the trick, and if you want to do a lot of money tomorrow and be #1 on mobile, will be to find the right balance between gameplay and game system. So this is, I think this is very interesting. So on my point of view, to finish with iOS, you can use it as your barometer. So iOS, for every developers, it's very simple to reach Chinese user and know what could be the success of your game on Android before investing on the Android version. So the first thing, do the localization work. It's not that much to localize the metadata, the screenshots. have a proper languages integrated. This is the base. Do this, it's very important, from the day one. Don't do it after launch. Do it from the day one. Then you have to play with what we call alternative price. So Apple, no. On their system, you can have different pricing for Chinese user than the rest of the world. So something which is $1 in the world, €1, 0.99, I think, you can put it for one kwai, 1 RMB in China, which is 10 cents. And you don't have to create a different in-app purchase package or everything. It's really everything on the iOS backend. So that means it's very important to play with this because Chinese users really get used to have a transaction at a lower price than $1. And then, if you can, at Ubisoft, we are not at that point yet, but try to get tools in your game that allow you to operate different pricing strategy, different banners, and different promotion per country. Because in China, it's very important if you want to trigger your revenue up, while only few games are doing that today. So that's my recommendation for iOS. It's pretty open. Go for it, localize, and check your data. If your game is making good revenue, the RPD is pretty balanced from the other country in the world, you can consider the second part, which is Android China. So Android China is a bit out of the box. Why? Because actually the thing on Android China is your app is not on Google Play. Google Play does not exist. So it's really a game changer. For a developer, for a publisher, this is what's changing everything. If Google Play were in China, it would be much more easier, but they are not. So basically, what we did in China, and what I'm going to share with you now, it's based with all these kind of deals we signed since 18 months. So we signed 6 different publishing deals with 6 different publishers, local publishers. So it was a way for us to learn about the market, to let them take the risk of publishing, and also to really get data. But we work with local publishers that normally requires the source code to do the change and localization by themselves, but we decided to do it ourselves. So that means we have learned a bit from that because all the recommendations from this publisher has been integrated on the build by Ubisoft. What you have to understand is when you work with a game like Prince of Persia, with partners like Coco, it's not one build you're doing for the store. You're doing 65 builds for 65 stores with 65 different requirements. One want a logo, one don't want a logo, one want advertising, one don't want advertising. So it's a lot of SDK integration work. We also published a game by ourselves, Charles Frontier, where Ubisoft was the publisher. And then we signed some deal with WeChat on the Rabbit. So we kind of have, I think, now a good understanding of the Chinese market. So what did we learn? So the first thing is when you have no Play Store, you have plenty of store. It's a big mess there. And that means a lot of things, actually. The first thing is you will need more key account management, so more business resources to talk to all of the store. If you don't have them, well, work with a publisher because it will take a lot of time. I don't know if you guys develop mobile game and you talk to Apple and Google. It's a lot of back and forth. You imagine the same multiplied by 20, 30, or 40 times. You have more build to prepare. Be ready of that. So the certification is more complicated. The build production pipeline is more complicated because, well, they all want different things, and you have to prepare different package. Also, something interesting about China, you have a big traffic. So everybody say, the Android, we're going to monetize with advertising. But the store, they don't want advertising. If you put advertising SDK, they will remove you from the store in a heartbeat. So you cannot make revenue from advertising in China. This is not true on Android today. Why? Because the store, you will see later, want money from your game. And on advertising, there are no way to control. And they don't want to do that. You have no Google services, so sometimes it's a problem for online game. You know, matchmaking, redeem, whatever you use on a leaderboard, whatever you can use from Google, it does not exist. You cannot use it, so you have to use third-party solutions or record everything. So sometimes it's complicated. You have no billing integration, because when you work with Google and Apple, there are a store and a billing. Here, there's nothing, so you will have to go through the billing process. I will talk about that later. And the rev share is totally different. I will explain you what is the real rev share in China today. So the first difference is, on my point of view, as a publisher, is the difference between Apple Store, Google Store, and the Chinese store. So basically, the Chinese store, what is quality for them, it's your monetization. It's your RRPD. So if you go to talk to them with the best graphism, the best marketing breakthrough in the world, and whatever, they don't care. They tell you how much I win after one day. This is the only thing they care about. So quality means game that monetize. That does not mean game that making download, that games that making PR, games that making good critic. No, that means games that making a good RPD. This is very, very important, because if you don't trick your monetization before getting into China, all the store won't promote your game at all. But what is interesting is they will help you to monetize your game a lot. The second thing is, if you talk with Google and Apple, these companies are editorial-based companies. So when you show their game, they give you advice, but they won't tell you what to do. You're the developer, you're the creator. They respect that. Well, in China, it's different. The editorial team is called an operation team. And the operation team will take your game, give you a notification, a note, a rating, B, A plus, S. And regarding your rating, they will take you or not. It's totally different. Which means one man, one guy can decide, and sometimes your game is just great, and the guys just don't see it. So this, you really have to be aware about that. And once again, that's why it's important to check at the iOS first, because if you have good metrics on iOS, it's something you can show them, and then that will make your job more simple. Another big difference, the download versus the active user is around 50% in China. So when I talk with them, they told me, many reasons. I do believe it's because they are faking the click. But anyway, on iOS, it's pretty 100% people download will activate the game, or you're close to 95%. In China, you will have hundreds that will download it, but only 50% that will be active in your game. So even a store tell you, I'm going to have 1 million download, it does not mean 1 million user. Be aware about that. And then all their backend is totally crappy and outdated. So all the submission is by email. You have very hard time to get your data. You have to shoot an email to know the download. Well, it's really old school. But they are very big, you will see later. In terms of revenue share, so this is the real revenue share in China today. The content provider, the developer is here. So this is a different world. This is not the West, right, where we got 70% of the stake. So here you will get 10 to 15%, and you can be happy with that. So why? For SMS billing, you have a big part which is taken by the billing itself. You have another big cut which is taken by the platforms. And then you have the publisher, and then you have yourself. And this actually, it's negotiable. Some publisher they will not accept a 50-50 split, but just to give you an idea, let's say 10 to 15% of the gross. On online billing, you don't have a strong billing cost, but the channels themselves, so the store, are taking more money, more rev share, for some reason. It's like that. So we're trying to change this, but it's very, very hard. So basically, today they take 50% of the stake just to bring user in your game. And then they take care of the billing, online billing, and then after you can share what left. So this is the reality of China. So what the real traffic you can get? So this is our best performing game in China today. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 15, it's a week. So basically the game since 15 weeks is bringing from 600K to 1 million weekly new user. So it's pretty big. It's pretty big. So that means in 15 weeks we are close to 15 million active user. So that means it's a huge market. It's very, very huge. I mean, even Apple Store worldwide cannot guarantee you that sometimes. So it's very important. What is also interesting on this curve, so all of this, 15 weeks, without no content update. And look at the curve. If you look at the Western launch game curve, without marketing investment, if you look at the launch Western curve on iOS or Google Play, it will do like that. You have your launch, big momentum, featuring from Apple, boom, it crash. And then after you have to buy acquisition to ramp up, or you have to do a big update. Here, the difference is you have many stores. So you can talk to them and play competition between stores. Or you can give to one store some redeem code that the other store don't have. And by playing with the store, you arrive to maintain a very, very important growth. So this is a typical curve in China, different from the West. So there's 234 stores today in China. Ubisoft, we only work with 45 because of manpower issue. And I also took different games. What is interesting is all the store regarding the game are different. So in the game 1, in the game 2, 360 is the first store, while in the game 3, it's the number 3. So the store also regarding to the game type, what you like and everything, they can bring you more or less traffic. So they are very more close to channels than to store actually in China. To make this simple, there's 4 big ones. With these 4 big ones, you cover 80% of the market. One called 360, one called Xiaomi, which is also a hardware manufacturer, one called Baidu, and one called Tencent Games. So basically, if you can talk to these 4 people, which are pretty accessible, it's a very good start already. In terms of different things, I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you heard about WeChat. No? You don't heard? Okay. So WeChat is a kind of WhatsApp in China. But it's very, very popular. It's 500 million MAU. It's very huge. And it's a mix between WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook. There's a Uber inside, price comparison, everything is inside. Even the wallet, the billing, everything is inside. So WeChat is very big. It's owned by Tencent. And if you look at the store in China today, the top 10 games on iOS and Android, 8 of the top 10 are from WeChat. So everybody say, oh, it's simple. You go on WeChat and this is it. Well, WeChat is not an open API and an open platform. It's close to Tencent, so you cannot decide to go on WeChat. So don't put that on your plan, on your P&L, because it won't happen. You have to pitch them. If they like your game, eventually you will be on WeChat, and you may have 2 or 3% of the revenue share. The business model is very close to the web game. I don't know if you're familiar to the free-to-play web game business model, but it's very this in China. So the store are channels, they bring traffic, and they bring traffic to the games that make them more revenue. So the operation guys have X number of banner, X number of ranking position, and you just use the game that making more revenue. So if you're not able to maintain your revenue, you will get off of the store. It's pretty simple. And then the audience, it's pretty male, still in China, if we compare with the West here. So that means on your assets, on your positioning and everything, it's very RPG game with game system, strong monetization behind. It's what works the best in China. So casual title, like match-free and everything, start to arrive, but it's more difficult for the casual title. So the question is, have you seen it's super complicated to enter in the Chinese market, at least on the Android side, so why I have as a developers to make the effort? Well, the reason is simple. It's the first market in the world since now, actually. We have the years where it's entering the first market in the world. So this is the Newzoo's market data. In blue, it's China. In gray, it's US. And what is also interesting is the growth is very more important, and China still have a lot of space on the growth. Well, US is going to arrive in a plateau more faster. And it's a 70-30 Android iOS today. So this is the reason why it's very important to consider China when you do a mobile game from the beginning, because if you miss China, it will be very hard to really get a lot of revenue. I'll give you a recommendation because you're probably based here in Europe and you don't have people there. So for a developer, the Chinese market is at some point pretty accessible. How? The first thing is you have a lot of publishers. So I give you 6 of them here. They are very easy to reach. Go on their website. They have business guys. They all speak English. And they're looking for CP, for content provider, so developer, that can give them content and give the game. If you have a hard time to contact them, you can contact me. I will give you their contact. So basically, they take your game and they bring it to China and they do all the dirty work publishing you've seen before. The thing is you have to give your source code away. Or if you don't want to do that, you have to commit with a localization team. But at least it could be very interesting for you to talk to those people, show your game, and see what they think about it. And on the right side, you have the 3 big store channels, which also are very open, looking for content, and they all have English speaker, business guys looking for content. So it's pretty simple to reach them. They are in China Joy, in Game Developer Conference, in E3, they are everywhere, and they're looking for content. So what is interesting is you give them your game, and they're going to make an evaluation with your game, and they will give you an evaluation report. And the evaluation report will tell you what works, what does not work, with a rate. It's pretty cool. So if you have an S game, that means bingo. We will give you a big check, and they will bring your game in China, and you can make a lot of money. If you have a B, C game, well, just forget about it. It will be too much effort. It will be remake the game to bring it into China. So yeah, I think you should try to contact these people if you have a product you want to bring. So I will give you 5 takeaways. The first one is use iOS as a barometer. It's very important. You can do this alone. Localize your game, localize your metadata, push it, and see what's going on. If your RPD is not that bad, well, you have something. The second thing is be aware of a low rev share on Android. Okay? If this is normal, I mean, obviously all the business people, some are better than others, but 10 to 15% is already not bad. Don't be scared about that. The third point, it will cost you resources. So even you give the game to a publisher, you will have to spend time on that for sales administration, for the KPI, for the analytics, and if you keep the source code, of course, for the localization version. What is also important is sometimes you need to update SDK within 24 hours, or you will lose all your revenue, because China Mobile decided to update its SDK. And if you don't do it, well, the revenue won't come anymore. And this is really what's happening every day. So you have to be aware about it at some time. Well, you will have an email and say, we need to update it now. And it has to be now. So quality in China means monetization. That does not mean marketing, positioning, stuff breakthrough, and kick-ass new gameplay. No, it means monetization. If you have monetization and kick-ass new gameplay, wow, it's wonderful. But first, the monetization. And then, what I explained, you can try to get an evaluation from all the people I've showed before. So A, B, S, different rate. And if you have a good rate, well, basically you can enter into the Chinese market. This is pretty it for me. I leave some time for Q&A, so if you have any questions, you can just shoot, and I will be pleased to answer you. Yeah?
Hello.
Hi.
Did you try to make a localization on Chinese, traditional Chinese, not only simplified?
Sorry?
Did you try to make a localization for traditional Chinese?
In simplified Chinese.
Yeah.
Simplified, yeah.
But did you ever try traditional?
Yeah, traditional we do also, but it's for Hong Kong and Taiwan market, which are Google and Apple. So they have nothing to do with this. They are really a normal store.
Okay.
So if you do a traditional Chinese version, it will go through the Google store and through the Apple store. And you can keep Facebook, you can keep YouTube, you can keep everything normal. Okay. If you want to go to the 1.6 billion user in China mainland, it's here, you have to do all of that.
So we shouldn't even bother releasing our game in English, and for example, in iOS version, we should block the Chinese release and wait for translation, for a localization, and then release to the Chinese market. Or to put it straight, if I'm release an English version in China, there's 0 downloads.
My recommendation, I had a discussion with a couple of developers yesterday. So the thing is, first you have to do a soft launch in one country in English. Okay? So you can do it in Australia, or we personally do it in Australia and New Zealand. So we use these 2 territories of a soft launch country. Supercell is doing it in Canada. Some people is doing in Finland, it depends, but you have to choose one English speaker country, not too big, to do your soft launch. During your soft launch, you will learn a lot about your game, and you need to update your version during the soft launch, and make sure your KPI per cohort version are raising up. So you don't mix up all your KPI because you will be blind, but you take my V1, my V2, my V3, and you have to see the curve improve in terms of retention and monetization. When you're ready, you put all the language you can, and there you push it to Apple and to Google. Then when you're on Apple Store, you check the KPI in China. If it's good, you can consider the third part, which is Android China. That's my recommendation. Okay?
Hi, thank you for a very good presentation.
Thank you.
And I'd like to ask, could you tell maybe just in rough numbers or how Chinese are willing to pay via mobile, or just to make it simple, what's the difference between, in the case of free-to-play titles, what's the difference in terms of conversion rate to paying players, as far as you know?
Yeah. So, I've shown you the RPD for our game is significantly lower, right? From 10% to 50%. So, but there's games in China which are really designed for China, which are making an RRPU at $12. So this is just insane. I don't know if there's a game very popular now in the West called Heroes Charge. I don't know if you know about this game. Heroes Charge is making $1 million per day, and it's a copy of a Chinese game that's been released a year ago. And this game are making $1, $2, $3 million per day. There's no problem. The RPPU is so average revenue per paying user. In China, is close to $80. Yeah, people spend a lot of time. The mobile is a very huge in Asia globally. Everybody stick to his mobile. The mobile applications and the position of mobile is very more important than in Europe, on my point of view. If you go on the metro, if you go everywhere, everybody is connected. Everybody is on mobile, smartphone. So, and you see it's the first market in the world. So, if your game is good, it will monetize, for sure. The thing is, yeah, it has to be, to have a lot of game system, a lot of RPG element that monetize, and then people can buy very easy because, as you've seen, the rev share is very small because you have the SMS billing payment. So in our game in China, with one click, you buy and it's getting directly into your bill. So you even don't have credit card to add or anything. So this is make the conversion rate pretty simple. And also a lot of people have a SIM card from the company. And so they can redeem friend, because with the SMS billing, you can buy for yourself or send credit to somebody. So everybody is doing this.
Okay, thank you very much.
So yeah, it should be all right.
Thank you for a very good presentation as well. Got a question about the free-to-play games. I bet it's a little bit changed. It's different than global markets. In case of free-to-play games, what items and what tips you can recommend on China markets, especially for free-to-play games? What's best for free-to-play games in China?
You mean the genre, the game genre? Now it's action RPG online. Action RPG online, action RPG online. So kind of hack and slash action RPG online. Yeah. This is what is today everybody is jumping on. It's and also online is more simple, and it's what I recommend for a new developer. Doing an online game is removing the billing, SMS billing, which is a lot of effort, a lot of SDK last minute, a lot of difficulties to track, a lot of piracy. While if you're an online game, you use the online payment, and everything is more simple. So, but you know, developing an online game is more costly, and you have servers and stuff. But honestly, we start with Trial Frontier, Ubisoft, and we have a team of 20 people just doing publishing, and it's very tough. The next one won't be offline; it will be online. So I will say, action RPG, and online if you can. Okay.
Thank you. Last question. Oh, we have two last questions.
Hello. One simple question. Do you have your internal localization team as a part of Ubisoft, or do you outsource localization tasks and jobs to another purely localization companies. In case of Chinese,
For the text, the text, right? All the text.
yes.
We have a localization team, but they externalize the job, and then they give it to the brand, which is a local brand team that confirms the localization or not. So we always have a brand level by territory. So basically, we have the Chinese brand manager work with the localization team. She receives the text. She have a look to it. She do a kind of quick proofreading. If it's good, well, we approve it. If not, the localization team have to find another vendor. That's the way it works today. But when we released our first game, we had very huge mistake because for Ubisoft, simplified Chinese was the first time. We never did that on console before. So we had a lot of mistake to select the right vendor. So to select the right vendor, the people can find the right tone. You need a brand, a local brand people that can tell it's okay or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One question about soft launch. Should we soft launch our game through the Apple Store or and Android market or Google Play in Australia, or should we select a local market in Australia and do soft launch through the local market? What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, it's always better to be there, right? But it depends what you want to do. If you want to publish yourself, yes. If you just want to be a developer and work with a local publisher, you can do it from here.
Yes, but let's say we want to test our game, yes, on this local market in
To
Australia.
test the game?
Yes. Should we
Go through the evaluation team of all
yes,
this
but
guy.
not. I'm talking about Australia and soft launch phase.
For the soft launch?
Yes.
For the soft launch, you can. That means in the case that you develop a game for China, you want to soft launch in China. So basically, you use one of their store, maybe a smaller one, and he can do the soft launch for you. The thing you will have is, if it's not an online game, your build will always be on every store because it's an APK. So even you go with one channel, the other one will take it and put it on their store. So it will be very hard to control.
Okay, thank you.
So it's, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.